Chapter 5. Life was easier without the goats. I could travel faster, go where my nose took me, get away from that highway, but it wasn't easy for long. That first day on my own, I stopped in at a few farms, poked around looking for some lunch, too proud to beg. Scared a chicken off her nest and grabbed an egg. Smashed the thing in my mouth. It took me forever to lick the shell off. Sticky darn thing an egg is. Weak with hunger, I went along a dirt road, then a paved road, and came at last to a town. It wasn't much of a town. There were just a couple of streets. One street went straight down to the water. At the water's edge, men unloaded nets filled with silvery things into big wooden boxes. Curiosity and hunger made me brave. I went to investigate. The men paid no attention to me. They had their work to do. They were big and loud and laughed a lot. In their thick rubber boots and yellow slickers, they slogged through the puddles cold enough to make me shiver. I hung back as long as I could, but I had to see what was in those boxes. It was sort of like the difference between sheep and goats. The stuff in the boxes didn't look like food, but it smelled like food. One box had a bunch of spiny red things with mean-looking pinchers on their paws. I left them alone. Another box had slimy silver things piled to the top. I sniffed the side of the silvery thing along with a dead, staring eye. It reminded me of the creatures in the pet shop, only a whole lot bigger. "Hey, what you doing there? You a fish dog?" I looked up, ready to bolt, but the fisherman was dog people, you could tell right away. He knelt and gave me a nice rub down. I had to get back to that fish. "You want some cod, is that it? All right, here you go." The fisherman grabbed the very fish I'd been sniffing and slapped it down on the dock. Then, with a sharp knife, he slit that thing right up the middle. Out came all this squishy stuff. Off came the skin. The fisherman laid a piece of white fish meat on his palm and held it out to me. I sniffed it. Not bad. So I gobbled it up. The fisherman laughed while I ate the rest of that fish meat. "This here's a fish dog," he said to the others. "Ever see a dog who likes fish this much?" Well, I was hungry is all. I'd have eaten a red spiny thing if that's all there was. Back on the road, I lived on that fish for a couple of days. Don't know how I held out. Proud, I guess. I'd seen the skinny homeless dogs that roam the streets in search of garbage. Strays. But I wasn't one of them. I wasn't a stray. I was a border collie of distinctive lineage in search of employment. They knew it, too. "Oh, so you're too good for us, huh?" their eyes would say. Well, just you wait. They were right, of course. Life on the open road was a brave adventure, but only if your belly was full. Then you had to have the strength to explore, to go any old place your feet and your curiosity could take you. But if you were hungry, life was just a search for food. You couldn't think about anything else. You couldn't enjoy a good rump with a pal you met along the way, or play tag with the kids in the park, or savor all the rich odors of the great outdoors. Your nose had a single purpose, and that was to find food. After a while, it didn't even matter what kind. By the third day after my fish, I found myself down by the railroad tracks. I'd had enough of being chased away from other places where food smell was the most enticing. Kitchens, restaurants, family picnics. I'd been hanging around people, acting all pitiful. After a while, it wasn't an act. "Shoo," the people would say, flapping their arms. "Shoo!" At first, I didn't understand. I thought they meant the things they wore on their feet. The goat man worried about shoes all the time. "You're a lucky Shep," he had said one time. "You got them permanent kind." Well, my permanent shoes were getting awfully weary, but my belly wouldn't let them rest. I don't know what I expected to find down by the tracks, but except for crickets, at least it was quiet, and there weren't any people to shoo me on. I nosed my way along the wooden part. Things had died there. Things that once had fur lay smashed and drying in the sun. My first thought when I heard the train whistle was of my mom and dad. I guess because it's lonely, that sound, downright mournful. And then I saw the train approaching, pulling its many cars, blowing clouds into a gray sky. Then the whistle again, the chug-chugging of that big engine, and the train went screaming by. I trotted alongside the tracks until I heard people talk. I wasn't in the mood for humans, but humans had all the food. Unless you were willing to kill, and I wasn't, you had no choice but to beg. You could act like you didn't care whether or not they shared their food, or you could try to charm them out of it. It came down to the same thing, begging. The goat man wouldn't have done it, I knew that, but then he had all the goats. Two raggedy-looking men were sitting on a log in the middle of a weed patch. One was small and skinny, the other was as big as a horse. As soon as he saw me, the big one yelled, "Look, Snatch, a dog!" The skinny one was busy pushing a threading needle through a shoe, just like the goat man used to do when his shoes fell apart. "Quit your hollering," he muttered. "It's a doggy, it's a doggy," yelled the big one. He got up and came lumbering out of the weeds toward me, his arms outstretched. I let him beat on me a little. Well, it was his idea of petting. He got down on one knee and started pounding me with those big old hands. He smelled pretty awful, but he smelled like chicken, too. Fried chicken. I was so hungry I licked the grease off his chin. Good doggy, nice doggy. Hey, Snatch, can we keep him? Can we keep this doggy? Snatch's eyes were real tired looking, red-rimmed and watery. He looked at the two of us and shook his head. Quit hollering. Okay, Snatch, the big guy whispered. Even his whisper was big. Can we keep him then? Come over here and try this on, Snatch said. He laid the old black shoe on the ground. The big guy got up. That's when I got a good look at what he had stunk so bad. His feet. He stuck a big bare foot into the shoe and headed back toward me. Ain't you going to put the other one on? Huh? Oh, yeah. He shoved his other foot into the other shoe. He can help us, Snatch, he said. The doggy can help us, you know. When we got stuff from the store. The big guy yelled all the time, even when he tried not to. It made the one called Snatch squinch up his face every time. Snatch took a good hard look at me, scratching his whiskery chin. I wagged my tail and cocked my head in a way that people seem to take to. Looks hungry to me, Snatch said. What are we going to feed him? He can eat my food. Quit your hollering. The big guy, Hollerin', I guess his name was, dug into a cloth bag and pulled out a hunk of chicken. Here, doggy, he yelled. What do you think you're doing? It was Snatch who was doing the yelling now. Do you think the chickens grow on trees? That didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Not to Hollerin' either by the look on his face. Ah, forget it, Snatch said. Where's that cigar we was smoking yesterday? Hollerin' dug into his bag. Out came an old brown, chewed-up looking thing that he passed over to Snatch. Snatch stuck it between his lips. Then he struck a match, touched the end of the cigar with it, and sucked some air in. Did that thing ever stink? Worse than Hollerin's bare feet. Snatch began to cough, and then he passed the cigar over to Hollerin'. Well, I'd watched people smoke cigarettes before. Cigars were more or less the same. Only the coughing was worse. The goat man said he could never understand why people smoked. But I did. It was to make the clouds. They'd get this dreamy look in their eyes sometimes as the smoke rose up, and that's how you could tell. Still, it was strange. The goat man said it was like taking poison, and he was never wrong. After they finished smoking and choking, Snatch and Hollerin' spread some coats on the ground and lay down. So I did too. By the smell of it, Hollerin's pack still had food in it. I was going to stick close and see if he would give me more. After a while, Hollerin' sat up and stretched. Let's get a chocolate milkshake, he yelled. Can't you let a guy sleep? Snatch rolled over. Then he got up and peed in the bushes. Hollerin' did too, marking the place for later, so nobody else would take it. Hollerin' kept on and on about the milkshake, and Snatch kept telling him to shut up. After a while, Snatch gave in. Okay, let me see how much money we got. He dug into his pocket and came out with some paper money and some coins. This is it, he said. It's all we got left. Hollerin' hung down over Snatch's hand. Enough for a chocolate milkshake? Snatch frowned a little at the little pile of money. It is, he said, if we don't buy any supper. But you don't care about that, right? I don't care about supper, Hollerin' yelled, shaking his big head. I just want a chocolate milkshake. You just want a chocolate milkshake, Snatch said. He sighed and stuffed the money back into his pocket. All right, come on then. He slung his pack over his shoulder, and Hollerin' did the same. I think he forgot all about me then, but I trotted along behind him, keeping an eye on that pack. It was a long walk for that milkshake, and Hollerin' never stopped yelling about it until we got to the place where they made them. Then he slurped it down so fast. I hope you're satisfied, Snatch muttered. We got to get us some stuff for supper now. You ready? I'm ready, Hollerin' said. Then his big, soft-looking eyes got wide. And the doggy's ready too, aren't you, doggy? Might as well name the mutt. You can't keep calling him doggy. People won't believe he's yours. They'll think something's fishy. Then what? Did you think about that? Hollerin's big mouth hung open while he thought about that. Spot, he said after a while. That's what I'm going to name him. Now, where did you get that name? Snatch said. He began to laugh and cough, pounding his skinny chest with his fist. 'Cause he's got this spot, Hollerin yelled. He's got this big white spot on his tail. Well, ain't you one smart fellow, Snatch said.